Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Seven Living with the Planets. I am Lucy Baldwin, and today I'm really excited to talk about probably my all time favorite archetype, the vampire. I have been really into vampires since I was a kid. I was a vampire for Halloween, like basically every year for like 10 years of my life. I love the vampire archetype. The vampire archetype is really popular in romance these days. There's some weirdness stuff about that maybe we'll get into. I don't know if I'll get there today, but I want to talk about vampirism as magic, just like the magician vampire. I want to talk about why it's powerful. I'm going to talk about how it can be dangerous and how to tell the difference between, because vampire magic is really just energy work. So I really want to explain what I mean, and then I want to also help you see the difference between conscious energy work and the shadow side of unconscious extraction that can happen. I just want to start by saying there's a really great book about this that I read many years ago, and I haven't read it in all these years. I will say it's a great reference, and I'm not going to talk too much about it because I'm not fresh on the content of the book. But it's by Don Webb, and it's called The Energy Magic of the Vampire. And he talks about the path of the vampire as an energy worker, an energy magician. And he talks about this archetype, and it's a really compelling archetype, and it's really beautiful. Like I said, it's energy magic, working with hunger and magnetism and like feeding and power and manifestation, of course. And there's a lot about getting people to do things for you. So the way that Webb talks about it, there has to be this reciprocal exchange in order for it to work and be healthy. So you have to feed your people and in order to get fed by them. So when we work with these consciously, these energy dynamics, it can feed everybody and it can be really beautiful and healing and helpful, but they can also be unconscious. So I just want to name some of the ways that this can look. So it can look like when you feel entitled to somebody else's energy, or when somebody else feels entitled to your energy, just like imbalance in reciprocity. So one person giving a lot, the other person receiving a lot. Admiration, like when there's this feeding on admiration. So if people are admiring you and you're just like feeding off of that and using that to get things out of them, or vice versa, if somebody that you admire is like having you do things for them and just all they're giving you is that you admire them. There's also, emotional availability. So if you're doing a lot for someone and they're not emotionally available, or if you have people doing a lot for you that you're not like paying them, I would say that's a red flag, right? If you're feeling like really somebody that you admire and they have you like helping them or working or something like that, but there's no like emotional connection, emotional availability, that's a red flag. This is something that I've 100% experienced. And so I can speak to this really clearly, especially in the world of like spirituality. We tend to pedestalize people who like teach, who have big messages and big visions and big ideas, and we admire them, and we want to serve their vision, and so we end up letting them vampire from us. And then it's like when you get into like a devotionary relationship with another person that doesn't have like clear boundaries, or like I said, clear reciprocity, this is like spiritual exploitation. And this is something that I see happening all the time. I see it happening right now in the world, and it has happened to me. So I just want to talk about it. And what is the answer to this? Well, first we have to know that it's happening, right? We have to like see that this is the pattern that is happening. And then we also have to have boundaries. And I think like in this particular area, I would say to me, what I see, what I feel is that the boundaries, the thing that's like stopping the boundaries is a sense of worth. It's self-worth. Like you have to believe that you are worthy of those boundaries, that you are worthy of the reciprocity. And because there's this like spiritual often vision that we're in service to, it can get really like twisty in our heads. And so we can be manipulated into thinking that it's the right thing to serve this person because we don't realize that we're serving them and their ego, not the bigger vision. And so it's so crucial that we evaluate, like, what is my time worth? What is my soul effort, soul energy worth in the, like, to me? And what am I willing to give up for it, for this vision? We just have to have like really clear, solid boundaries, or these like teach these relationships that we have with our teachers and our mentors can actually become draining. So we end up over giving. We feel guilty if we say no. Anytime you're feeling responsible for someone else's feelings, for their energy, for their emotions, for their field. So that's not healthy, right? You should never feel responsible for somebody else's field. And so this is something that like an unintegrated vampire will make you feel like you're responsible for how they feel. And so if you notice yourself feeling like I can't tell the truth, and I'm not saying it's the fault, like that it's anybody's fault. I just want to be clear. Like, we're all playing the game together. And so if you are being vampired upon, extracted from, you are participating in that. And you are responsible for your role in that. And if you are extracting from others, it's the same. You're responsible for your role in that. So this is not like a victim perpetrator thing. This is like here is how these vampiring extractive energy exchanges can look. And here's what to do about it, right? It's like you are never responsible for somebody else to make somebody else feel okay. As soon as you think that you are sacrificing yourself to them, and it will not serve them and it will not serve you. When you stop trusting yourself, anytime anybody tells you that they know better than you what is true for you, that is a red flag. That is a distortion. And so this is where self-trust is crucial. You have to trust yourself. So, mistaking this depletion, thinking that being depleted, it's a signal of how much you've given. There's a virtue in over giving and depleting yourself and giving up for the thing. And this is how cults are created, and it happens all the time. And so it really behooves us to just be like really aware of what these things look like, and to be able to name them so that we can protect ourselves and so that we can have that energetic clarity. Because the golden side of the vampire, the healthy version of the vampire, the energy work of a healthy vampire is extremely beautiful. It's extremely nurturing. And there is so much reciprocity and caretaking, but it's a stewardship. So, having healthy vampire energy, magic, energy work is like being a steward. You are helping to steward in like a healthy exchange, a healthy dynamic. You're supportive, but not overly involved. And so you can have this like wonderful exchange while still taking care of yourself, having your own boundaries, having your own self awareness. And if we always think about being a steward, then we won't get sucked into these unhealthy dynamics on either side, really, because if you see yourself as a steward and also you have clarity around your own boundaries, it will be very hard for somebody to exploit you, right? You will be able to say no, and you won't get sucked into taking care of somebody else. And you'll notice the reciprocity. It's really a fine line because we don't want our relationships to feel transactional, right? And so we often want to just like give freely and just be in like love and abundance, and that feels really good and dissolved into the higher spiritual realm of it all. But there is a way that is how that can lead us down the road of exploitation if we're not careful. And so we have to have some awareness of reciprocity. We have to have some awareness of there being an equal exchange. And we can look at that in ourselves by noticing like what feels good and also asking ourselves, why am I doing this? Am I doing it because I feel like I have to? Because if I don't, something bad's going to happen to that person because I feel responsible, because I feel manipulated, because I don't know what my own truth is? Or am I doing it because it's like emerging from me as like something that feels good? It's like there's a genuine desire to serve in this way and to be a steward in this way. I hope this makes sense because really in this dynamic where I'm talking about like the exploit, like the person who's being exploited and the person who's exploiting, they're both responsible for their own side, but they're both capable of being stewards of the other. And so in either position, holding the sense of stewardship, they both have the capacity to create a healthy dynamic here. And so even just one side of this, holding boundaries, holding that energy can shift the dynamic. And sometimes the person that you're in these dynamics with, if you are in these dynamics, will not respond well and it will potentially end a relationship. But you have to prioritize that you're going to be in relationships that serve you, that don't exploit you, and trust. Like this is magic. We have faith that by honoring our truth and by sticking with our boundaries, better relationships will come in. If we are spending all of our time getting exploited because of a promise or a notion or a vision that's not ours, that we have no control over, that we have no like skin in the game, that we don't have ownership, that our name isn't on it, we will find that we are blocking much healthier, much more nurturing relationships from being able to enter, much more nurturing partnerships from being able to enter, right? We have like very limited, finite bandwidth for these kinds of relationships. And so, anytime that you're holding on to something that's not serving you, anytime that you're holding on to something that is not honoring your boundaries, first of all, you are telling the universe, you are casting the spell of not having boundaries, of not taking care of yourself, of not caring about yourself, of not being worthy of being honored. And so that's the reality that you're creating. But the moment that you take back your power, the moment that you say no, everything changes. You're casting a new spell. You're calling in a new energy. And so there's this necessary reckoning that happens. And that's how you start to attract the things that are good for you. If you're feeling resentment, don't convince yourself that that's bad and you're wrong. It's like, that's important information. Where is that coming from? Why are you feeling that way? How are you not honoring your own boundaries? How are you not protecting your own boundaries? Because the resentment, it's always about, ultimately, it's always about ourselves. What am I doing here to create a scenario that doesn't work for me, where I'm, in this position that doesn't feel healthy and reciprocal? So, it's not about them. It's never about them. It's always about you and how you hold yourself and how you demand to be treated, right? And so I just want to say that when you're in these dynamics, it's so important to just have faith that the moment that you stand up for yourself, or the moment that you say no, or the moment that you take your power back and stop playing the game of taking care of other people, of being overly responsible for them, and tying your self-worth to their outcomes, right? This is the pattern that I'm talking about. Everything will change, everything will shift. And then it's a matter of like not falling back into those same patterns with somebody else, right? And this comes from a desire to be liked, a desire to be helpful, a desire to be good, a desire to connect to people and spirituality and bring like beauty into the world, right? It's always coming from the right place. It really always is. And the trick is to just realize that in order to do any of that effectively, you have to be true to yourself. So the goal is not to become closed. It's really about seeking stewardship for yourself, seeking stewardship in your relationships, and, getting back to the vampire, um, the mythic vampire really just like sucks the blood and kills their victims. That's not what we're talking about here. We're really talking about the vampire who understands that if you just deplete from everybody around you, there will be nothing left for you to take. And so there has to be an exchange, there has to be reciprocity. And so you can have really healthy, energetic exchanges with people and receive so much abundance together by having healthy, loving, reciprocal relationships where you each honor your boundaries and you each hold stewardship rather than responsibility for each other, the relationship, and the vision. Thank you so much for watching this episode of The Seven. I'll see you in the next one.